They say you should never give what you can't afford to lose. But some people don't give because they have extra. They give because they remember what it feels like to have nothing. On a cold evening in Los Angeles, a Hispanic mother made a decision that would quietly rewrite her destiny. She handed her last $100 to a homeless man sitting on the sidewalk. She had no idea who he really was. No idea what world he came from. No idea what kind of power slept behind his tired, unreadable eyes. And by the time she would learn the truth, her life would already be moving in a direction she never imagined. Her name was Maria Alvarez. She was 26 years old, though the weight of life had aged her far beyond that. Her hands were rough from work. Her shoulders always tense. Her eyes constantly scanning for danger, disappointment, or judgment. But when she smiled at her son, that heaviness disappeared. Maria didn't grow up dreaming of struggle. She was raised in a strict Hispanic household where reputation mattered more than healing, and silence was mistaken for strength. Where mistakes were remembered longer than pain. When Maria was 19, her world collapsed in a single night. She trusted someone she shouldn't have. Someone who took advantage of her vulnerability. Someone who left her broken in ways she didn't yet have words for. She was raped. The trauma stayed with her long after the bruises faded. When she found out she was pregnant, she was terrified, but determined. She believed her family would protect her. She was wrong. Her father told her she had embarrassed the family. Her mother cried quietly, but still packed her bags. Her brothers looked at her like she was a reminder of something shameful. No one asked her who hurt her. No one asked if she was okay. They told her to leave. That night, Maria walked out of her childhood home with a small bag, a shaking body, and a future she had no idea how to survive. She slept on couches at first. Friends. Acquaintances. Anyone who would let her stay a little while. But help has an expiration date. Once her belly grew, people grew distant. By the time her son Daniel was born, Maria was already exhausted. She worked 2 jobs. Cleaning office buildings at night when the city slept. Serving food at a small diner during the day with swollen feet and a forced smile. The pay covered rent in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment. It covered daycare when she could afford it. It covered diapers, formula, bus fare. Barely. There were nights Maria skipped meals so Daniel wouldn't have to. Mornings she cried quietly in the shower so no one would hear. There was no safety net. No family. No savings. No backup plan. Only survival. That evening, rain had soaked the city streets. Maria was walking home from work, Daniel asleep against her chest, wrapped in a thin blanket that barely kept the cold out. Her feet ached. Her stomach growled. Her mind replayed bills she didn't know how to pay. Then she saw him. A man sitting against a brick wall near the bus stop. His clothes were soaked. His hair unkempt. A bruise darkened one side of his face. He wasn't begging. He didn't have a sign. He just sat there, silent. Still. His eyes lifted as Maria passed. Something about his gaze stopped her. It wasn't desperation. It was awareness. She walked a few steps further, then stopped. Turned around. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. The man looked up. His face was sharp beneath the exhaustion. His eyes calm. Calculating. "I will be," he replied. His accent was subtle. Korean. Maria hesitated. She reached into her bag. Her fingers touched the envelope. Inside it was $100. Her rent money. Her food money. Everything she had left until payday. She froze. Daniel shifted in her arms. She remembered nights she'd cried alone. The times no one helped her. The way the world looked away. Slowly, she pulled the envelope out. "This isn't much," she said gently, handing it to him. "But I hope it helps." The man stared at the money, then at her, then at the sleeping child against her chest. "You need this more than I do," he said quietly. Maria shook her head. "I know what it's like," she said. "To feel invisible." She smiled and walked away. That night, Maria cried. Not because she regretted helping him, but because she didn't know how she would survive without that money. The landlord wouldn't wait. The fridge was nearly empty. Daniel needed formula. She prayed. Not for wealth. Not for miracles. Just for strength. The homeless man remained seated long after she disappeared. His name was Kang Minit-jae. And homelessness was temporary. Minit-jae was a Korean Mafia boss. A man whose name once carried fear across the underworld. A strategist. A ruler. A shadow king. But power attracts betrayal. His closest allies sold him out. Ambushed. Left for dead. His accounts frozen. His allies silent. His enemies watching. Minit-jae survived, barely. He disappeared into the streets to heal, to observe, to decide who the world really was without his power. And in that time, the only person who treated him like a human being was a woman with nothing to give. 3 days later, a black luxury car pulled up outside Maria's apartment building. Men in tailored suits stepped out. Maria's heart raced. She held Daniel tightly as a knock echoed through her door. When she opened it, her breath caught. The homeless man stood there. Clean. Composed. Powerful. Unrecognizable. "My name is Kang Minit-jae," he said calmly. "And you saved my life." He didn't hand her cash. He gave her security. A better apartment. Medical care. A stable job with protection. Education for Daniel. When Maria tried to refuse, he shook his head. "Money can be repaid," he said. "But character is rare." Years later, when Maria finally learned the truth about who Minit-jae truly was, she understood something powerful. Her kindness didn't just change a life. It changed destinies. The world will tell you to harden your heart, to look away, to protect yourself at all costs. But sometimes, the smallest act of kindness is the loudest declaration of who you are. Maria gave her last $100 and gained a future she never believed she deserved. Not because she was lucky, but because she chose humanity when the world gave her every reason not to.